Hi, my name is Cyn Gomez. I'm 17 years old. I identify as non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. My gender expression is mostly androgynous, leaning more towards masculine. I found that this is the most comfortable for me, especially with the fact that I identify as non-binary. A lot of the time, if I don't express myself this way, assumptions will be made otherwise. So for a short while, I tried to really embrace like my feminine aspects, but I grew more and more uncomfortable with that because of the fact that I was getting misgendered a lot more often than if I dressed more androgynous or more masculine. So the way I present myself now has given me the opportunity for people to ask questions, which I'd much rather prefer than people making assumptions. My sexual orientation is bisexual, and or I guess technically pansexual because of the fact that I identify as non-binary. That means that I mostly care about the person's personality rather than what they identify as. So in the past, I've dated men and women alike, and currently I'm in a long-term relationship. My 1-year anniversary is in a week, actually. Yeah, I have a girlfriend. She's been the most supportive in me coming out, and she's helped me through the process of coming out to my dad. So she's my main support system, and honestly, I don't know where I'd be without her. What it was like coming out to my dad was a little underwhelming. I had experiences with him or about him in the past where I wasn't at an event, but my siblings were at an event with him, and while he was under the influence of alcohol, he had made a statement saying that if he had a son and he was gay, he wouldn't support him. And I found out about that statement when I was about 14, and that was when I started coming out to my friends and a couple of my family members or anyone else that I really trusted. And that basically put him at like a disadvantage in my eyes because I lost a little bit of trust in him. And even though it was a time where I was coming out to many people around me, I purposely left him out because of that. With that being said, when I started dating my current girlfriend, he showed a little bit more resilience, I think, and he started to be a little bit more open-minded. He would make less comments, realizing that the fact that one of his kids might be LGBT, and ultimately it was one afternoon where I just went up to his room and I told him, rather than speaking about myself, I spoke about my relationship, and I told him that I did have a girlfriend, and he basically said that it was okay and that he has learned a lot, and because of me, he has learned a lot because of me. Yeah, he's learned a lot because of me, and he kind of understood where I was coming from and didn't really ask many questions. He kind of just accepted it, and I think that was the best reaction I could have gotten from him, and I appreciate him and the rest of my family a lot because of that. Let's see. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate my self-esteem about a 6, and I think it's because of a bunch of components in my life. The fact that I am an overachieving student and I always want to do the best in anything that I do, it means that I do fail a lot. And that's something that I struggle with. And I struggle with coming to terms with the fact that not every time you try something, there's going to be a success at the end. Yeah, because I'm currently in 3 AP classes and 5 clubs, and 2 sports, so that means a lot of my time is on other things that I enjoy doing. With that being said, not every day is a success. Some days are just too stressful and some days are just too overwhelming, and that for a short while it makes me think that like I'm not good enough or I'm not doing the best, even though at the time, like in retrospect, I realized that that is my best and that is all I can give at that moment. It also has to play into the fact that I struggle a lot with my identity, and a lot of times my self-esteem issues root from dysphoria too, and the fact that I doubt myself, and yeah, a lot of components of my self-esteem and come from school, my self-identity, and my mental health, because once one starts to fall apart, everything else is kind of just like a domino effect, and I kind of have to build myself up. And right now I feel like I just got knocked down and I'm in the process of building myself up again, so I think that also plays into why it's kind of like a lower number.
And you don't have to answer them all, these are just
Okay.
yeah.
What's the hardest part about being? Okay, so for me, the hardest part about being out is that it never ends. You're always coming out, and you're always either explaining yourself or fighting someone or trying to educate them, and after a certain point, it can get kind of exhausting. But with my gender identity and the way I identify, I would much rather prefer people ask rather than assume. So if that means one person gives an ignorant comment but then understands where I'm coming from afterwards, I will 110% rather have that than them simply assume or make ignorant comments on it. So for me, my coming out process was long, and I kind of just did it in bits and pieces, and I'm still doing it to this day in bits and pieces because of the fact that I am almost entirely out sexuality-wise. So most people do know that I identify as bisexual/pansexual, but something I'm still struggling with to this day, and I have been struggling with for almost 4 years now, is coming to terms and coming out as non-binary, especially because of the fact that there aren't as many role models and exposure to it in the media. It's really hard for people to understand where I'm coming from, and that this is simply who I am. Like, I didn't choose to be this way, and everything I do is so that way some other individual doesn't have as hard of a time. I'm not diagnosed with any mental illness, not because I see anything wrong with it, but more so because my parents have had a really bad experience with therapy. My older sibling had gone through therapy, and because it didn't work for her, they don't think it works at all. And that greatly put me at a disadvantage because of how much I participate in activities. I struggle a lot with my mental health, and yeah, so for me that means being undiagnosed, but I understand that I do struggle more than the average student, I think. Even though a lot of students don't communicate their struggle, every day is an uphill battle for me. I went through my junior high experience and a little bit coming into my high school experience, I struggled a lot with self-harm, and a lot of my advisors and coaches and teachers know about this, but a lot of times I don't feel the need to bring it up unless it can help someone else, because of the fact that I am almost entirely recovered, and I don't think that it limits me in any way going forward. Yeah, when I was self-harming, it was mostly because I felt that my support system was collapsing on me. A lot of my friends were growing and changing, and our dynamics were changing within that. And I isolated myself a lot, and I felt that there were no resources available to me. Of course, now I know that there are an abundance of school resources that I can look into, or outside resources, and there's countless coping mechanisms, but at the time it felt like there was nothing else that I could provide for the world, that I was burdening my family, and that it felt like there was more struggle than success at the time. And I think one thing that really helped me get through my self-harm was learning, over-involving myself. So with that, I found a purpose, and I believe that struggling with my mental health, even undiagnosed, and struggling with self-harm it's made me stronger, and it's made me capable of doing all of these things that I'm currently involved in. Because the way I think about it is, if I was able to overcome that, I can overcome anything. And I did it all on my own. So I think that I made myself mentally strong, and then yeah, everything else kind of fell into place. One thing that I would say to peers or parents of those who are wanting to come out or are in the process of coming out is not necessarily be accepting, but be willing. The most important thing is willingness to learn and willingness to adapt to the situation you're placed in. Because you have the capability to change the way you think. That person does not have the capability to change who they are. So you have a lot of power in the way you react to the situation you're placed in with young adults or children or adults in general coming out to you. Your reaction is essential to how their mental health will be from that point on, as well as their coming out experience from that point on. The way you react should be with reflection, and give yourself time to adapt and change, but willingness over anything is what is going to be the most important. I think the fact that my friend group was willing to learn and adapt with me was key to them normalizing that I was LGBT, that I identify as non-binary, that my pronouns are they and them, that I have all these dreams and goals, and they can be by my side and support me through all this, or they can knock me down and be the reason that I give up. So I think it's important to take into consideration that you can be that person that lifts someone up and can also be the person that knocks someone down. The capability is within your hands, and ultimately it's not about you. It is about the person that is coming out to you, and it's about them confiding in you. So your job is to be a supporter, especially if you're a parent or a loved one. You signed up to be a parent or a loved one. You have an obligation, whether biological or not, to love that person unconditionally. So if your child or anyone that you're taking care of comes out to you, your job is to be there for them over anything. And I think that's something that I learned from my parents in comparison to other parents. They were there for me unconditionally, and that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I know a lot of other kids aren't in that situation, but if you are the parent watching or the guardian watching, that power lies within your hands, and the most important thing is doing the right thing with that power.